Do you miss Kaguya-sama? Don't worry, I get it. Oshinoko is a fantastic series, there's no denying that. But there's something about these two borderline psychopaths that are going after, their mother's murderer that doesn't capture that same kind of rom-com feel to it. And plus, there's also the fact that it might be going down a route that I don't think many of us were really anticipating. But I digress. We want to get the funny misunderstandings, the jokes, the characters that you love so much. We want something that's going to scratch that itch, and some of us don't know where to get it. Well, you don't have to look too far, because Love is War never really died. It just changed. Because there's Aka Akasaka's other manga, Renai Daikou, or otherwise known as The Love Agency. Hi y'all, I'm Bayfond, and listen, I think I'm fairly certain that this manga over here captures at least some of the same feelings that Kaguya-sama did. Now, I would say it's definitely different in the fact that it tries to do its own thing, but it has some of the same kind of feeling, the jokes to it. Like one thing I would say that is vastly different is the pacing. This story goes by fairly quick, and if you're used to something like Kaguya-sama where it takes a few chapters to get somewhere, yeah, no, this one goes through blazing through everything. But I would say that this is actually something that adds on to the story's strengths instead of it being a detracting factor. Because where we start with the story is with Mari, this half-Japanese student that is really popular in school, but for whatever reason, she just doesn't know how to communicate with guys. And more in specific, she's trying to get the attention of one guy that just stays in the library, reads books all days. His name is Seki. So in order for her to try and break through this barrier that she's made up for herself, she contacted the Love Agency, and she got assigned Gon, this little kind of mascot fox thing that gives her advice on what to do next. And of course, upon reading the first few pages of chapter 1, you're already thinking to yourself, I've probably seen this story quite a number of times. I mean, listen, someone hiding their true self to try and get closer to someone else, that sounds like the most classic, most cliche rom-com kind of feel there is. Until you reach the end of chapter 1 and realize that Seki isn't actually just that quiet, shy kid that reads books. He's the complete opposite. He's this extroverted, almost borderline delinquent kind of guy that's got his own love agent attending him. His agent's name is Bon, and he's a tanuki. And this marks the start of the classic story of deception and lies and mind games that, Aka just can't write a simple story without stakes like these, because if not, he's gonna get bored and he's just not gonna finish it. He needs to have these high-level kind of plays. But that's just the twist in chapter 1. The thing is, the story changes up quite often. Usually in a story like this, the two rom-com leads are going to be people that hide their intentions for the entire story until the climax, where they reveal it all and bear their emotions and everything, and then it goes, oh, it doesn't matter who you are. Well, here, everything got aired out before chapter 10. When Seki was trying to save Mari from the social media club, he revealed that he was a little bit more than just that shy guy. And that scared her. So no matter what direction you think the story's gonna go, the story always has a wrench thrown in that throws the plans off course. And it just keeps happening, and it keeps making the story even more engaging. I'm not afraid to say that the first few chapters felt a little slow to me, because it was building the characters, it was building the world. You didn't understand them, and everything was just getting clearer by the moment. The most important thing about stories like these are the characters, and they have to be people that you actually want to keep reading about. And I think this story does a pretty good job at that. Seki, as a character, I was afraid that I was gonna absolutely detest him because of the way that he just acted, the way that he appears. How he's presented in the manga at first is this guy that almost seems like a delinquent. He seems like the most terrible kind of person, like an NTR protagonist or something like that, because of the way he just talks about Mari. He over-sexualizes people, and the way that he just has a foul mouth. But that's just it. That guy just has a foul mouth, but overall, his actions, his personality, everything around him, he's pretty kind-hearted and pure. He tries to help out people whenever he can, and he's surprisingly probably the most innocent person there. His character is so good because he's just so perfect for all of those misunderstandings and awkward situations that you don't know what's gonna happen next. Seki and his friends come up to this random girl, and everyone's anticipating the worst, but what happens is that they give her a makeover and they change her life for the better. Seki wants to learn more about what bookworms are like, so he joins the manga club. I absolutely adore the manga club. Aka always writes a Maki stand-in no matter what story he's writing. He needs to torture one character always. And Seki is definitely a character that I actively grew to love. Mari is a character that exudes confidence, but then again, she just can't talk to men. The reason behind that turns out to be a lot darker than I was actually expecting. I mean, goddamn, Aka, what the hell's really going on here? The gist of it is that she feels a lot of regret and guilt because she chose her mom over her dad when her mom cheated on her dad, and she had to pick sides during the divorce, which inadvertently caused her dad to pretty much, which is pretty heavy. So it factors in heavily in her fear of guys. So now she wants to go after people that she thinks are a lot kinder, a lot softer, people that are not intimidating in the slightest. That's the kind of person that she wants to gravitate towards. But she's definitely a character that I think needs therapy. A common thread that you see with a few of these characters here. And while the story started with Mari and Seki trying to get together, now the story is more Seki trying to chase after Mari after the initial rejection. And I'm pretty sure the entire time you'd be thinking to yourself that these are our rom-com leads. They're the main characters, right? But no, because the main characters in this are Kon and Pon. The story is about them. Mari and Seki are just the heroes, sort of say. And you can see this plenty of times because Kon and Pon, they're the ones that are trying to bring everything together. Whenever Mari and Seki are texting, who's texting? Kon and Pon. Who's trying to make the moves happen? Who's trying to facilitate everything going on? Them two. The story's gradually been building so that they're the center focus of the story. Pon, as a character, is this kind of bigger guy, but he's got this personality that's just really bright. He talks in a way that's borderline Chinubio. I mean, he's supposed to sound like a Tanuki, and I've got really no basis on how a Tanuki is supposed to sound like, but it's got kind of like this grand way of speaking. He believes in love no matter how impractical it might be, and no matter what, he's gonna keep chasing after Gon because he's been absolutely in love with her for the longest time. He's just been trying to take his steps closer and closer, slowly. When we're presented to Kon, she seems like a hikikomori. She doesn't like leaving. She doesn't like going outside for any reason. And we don't know why initially. But what we do know is that she dislikes Pon. She isn't really too fond about how he looks, how his personality is, and how he's ahead of her in terms of the love agency positions. But sooner rather than later, we learn about why she actually tries to shy away from being with other people, because she thinks that her being in some place is going to manipulate people's attention. She's going to manipulate how other people feel about her unintentionally. So she closes off that door so people don't get riled up. A character that I definitely probably think needs therapy. And these are our four central characters, what the story is going to be revolving around. They're all people that you definitely understand where they're coming from and you want to keep reading. I would say a big important thing to note is that unlike Love is War, unlike Kaguya-sama, the situations aren't wild, they're not insane, they're not improbable. Here it tries to take a more practical approach on romance. There's real systems at play about categorizing people based on their emotions, based on their personality. The advice that it gives is pinpointing why people act a certain way and how you can interact with them so that you can get them to like you more. Whether that be with exposure theory, when you just interact with someone so many times that they start to feel comfortable with you, or with something like an image change where you really want someone to notice you. Honestly, I think the way that the manga gives its advice kind of presents itself in a way that like, hey, it wants us, the audience, to go out and try these tips ourselves. Yeah, it looks like it's trying to sort of be informational. Personally, the ones to continue a conversation are things that I've been saying for years. Right now in the story, after like chapter 31 or 32, Bon has had a huge image change because he lost a ton of weight, and Gon's realized that he's actually in love with her, which are two pretty big things that I didn't really anticipate this manga to do. Main characters having big changes like these rarely happen in manga, and I hope that they don't really backtrack on it, even though there's a big possibility that they can. I would hate for them to say like, oh, I just got stressed out and gained the weight again. And there's also the fact that now Gon knows about Bon's intentions, all because of an oblivious Mari, which is something that, again, you would anticipate in the manga that's like dozens and dozens of chapters through. And I doubt that this really means that the story is being axed. I mean, this is Aka Saga. His mangas go on for quite some time. So the way that I see this is that the story is just going to continue in ways that we're just not anticipating. And I'm here for it. The vibes that this story gives me, even though it's not always the same as Kaguya, it's still somewhat there. You can see it in the comedy and you can see it in the art. Even though Akasaka didn't actually draw this manga, it was actually a mangaka called Nishizawa 5mm. I feel like Nishizawa in some panels tries to capture or try to mimic the same kind of like feeling and the same kind of look that you could see in some chapters of the later half of Kaguya-sama. And I would say like right now, I haven't really spoiled all too much about the series. There's still so much more that you can just jump into and just enjoy completely. I would say that if you want an interesting take on a rom-com, pick this up, read it. It's not too long and you can start to get invested. And what I want to know is if you've already read the manga and what are your thoughts about it? Is it something that you think is like on par with like Kaguya-sama and Akasaga's other works? Or is it something that you think is like, you know, just kind of meh? It was a little slow for you and it's just not quite your tempo. Please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And as always, I was Bayfond and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.